He's gone. It doesn't feel real. I am struggling to articulate a suitable title. My emotions are extremely heightened and unpredictable. I apologize. This may end up being lengthy and thorough. I am using my mobile phone. This is a throwaway account. Yesterday morning, I awoke to the sound of my neighbors bustling around outside, followed by the arrival of an ambulance. My elderly neighbor had slipped on ice while walking his dog and had sustained injuries to his hip and head. I observed as he was taken away and transported to the hospital. Fortunately, several people were nearby at the time and managed to find him. The last update I received from his son was that he was still undergoing evaluation. They had spent the entire day at the hospital. 20 minutes after he was taken away, I noticed a voicemail notification. It was from one of my sisters I had blocked a year earlier. "Hey, Op, I just learned that our brother has died. Call me." I was left in shock. What? Now, fake names and estimated ages. I have 4 siblings, all from the same father, 2 older half-sisters who are full sisters to each other. Connie, 67, not relevant to this discussion, and Carrie, 64, my half-brother Chris, who is 58, and my full sister Chrissy, who is 53. I am 40. None of us really grew up together. I certainly did not. The others occasionally met up as they were closer in age. I was the surprise child. Carrie is the one who left the voicemail. I called my partner while in tears, explained the situation, and he quickly got out of bed to come over. I reached out to Chrissy to share the contents of the voicemail, and she received the same message. We were both crying as we tried to console one another. I had previously blocked Carrie and Chris due to sibling drama, and I had been focusing on my mental health, which neither of them respected. Chris had argued with me about my anxiety issues, and Carrie just behaved like herself. Chrissy mentioned that she had not had much contact with Chris since November, though they had occasionally kept in touch. He had been posting a bit on Facebook, but I don't use any social media. Chrissy indicated that she would contact Carrie for more information to prevent me from getting embroiled in everything happening in Carrie's life, and instead just get the facts. About an hour passed. Now comes the trigger warning. Content warning. Suicide. Amid the tears, Chrissy revealed that Chris had been found hanging. Carrie woke up to a message from someone else informing her of the situation. I let out a cry, screamed, struck things, and went outside to cool down since I was sweating profusely. I collapsed to the ground. Chrissy dealt with something as I attempted to regain my composure while waiting for my partner's arrival. He arrived shortly thereafter. I felt numb. I relayed the details I knew to him. He had interacted with Chris several times in the past, they had a good rapport, and Chris had given him his seal of approval. My mind shifted into logical mode. I needed clarifications. I had to find out if it was true, where his dog was, who discovered him everything. His last Facebook post was 5 days ago. He wasn't an everyday poster, based on what I saw from my partner's Facebook. I looked up his address, called the local police department, and received a call from an officer who informed me that he had been found the previous day by someone he knew. I suspect the narrative may have gotten distorted by the time it was conveyed to Carrie, as her version did not include all the information I received from law enforcement. A detective has been assigned to the case. I received names and had my partner send them my details via Facebook, while Chrissy stayed on the phone with us for most of the day, so we could support each other. I am on the contact list for any updates from the detective. I also believe that I was contacted by my local Human Services Department after reviewing my call history. I plan to reach out to them on Monday. I broke down multiple times. This behavior was not characteristic of him. Thoughts raced through my mind, taking me back to previous conversations. He had lost his mother around his birthday just over a year ago. That was when I unblocked my siblings for a while so I could provide support in any way I could. He had been distant for a while before reappearing a month later, understandably grieving. Carrie had included me in a group chat with all of us. I personally dislike group chats, they feel like social media. I focused more on expressing supportive sentiments, but the chat ultimately soured, primarily due to Carrie. Chrissy tried to keep it calm, while Chris was confused about the tension. Our sibling dynamics are as chaotic as my emotions have been full of blame, general nonsense, and erratic behavior. Sometimes we get along, and other times, there are periods of silence and conflict. I do not want that now. This situation is already too overwhelming. Eventually, I messaged Carrie to let her know I was aware of what had happened. She provided her perspective, and I made it clear that I only wanted factual information pertaining to our brother, as I couldn't manage any other matters at that time. I stood firm on that, received a further message back from her, and then I ceased engaging beyond the facts. For the first time, she didn't send a message asserting that she must have the final word. As it was getting late and I had not consumed anything since the previous morning, I experienced another wave of emotions, but finally managed to eat something. I know Chris would have wanted me to take care of myself, regardless of who had passed away. Chris was genuinely a caring person, despite facing his own personal struggles throughout his life. I keep wondering if his inner demons finally claimed him, leading to this tragic outcome. I do not know of any notes. I have no additional information. It's a flurry of questions, many of which may not have answers. I had to convey this to my partner. I have faced too many deaths in my life, primarily during my younger years, and I understand that the grieving process varies each time. We had a disagreement about this before he left for the day. That night, I stayed up watching random shows to maintain some stability and avoid feeling like I was on an emotional roller coaster. I want to isolate myself. I informed my therapist in advance about the sad news before our appointment this week. I doubt anyone will contact me. Chrissy stated that I was closer to Chris than any of our other siblings, and I can see that because I always kept that door open for him except for the past year. I feel guilt about that. Chrissy tells me not to feel guilty, and my partner says the same. That was just the situation at that time. How could I have anticipated this outcome? I do not know what I would have done without Chrissy and my partner by my side during the day on Saturday. However, I have been alone for the past 12 hours. My thoughts are racing as I attempt to comprehend everything. I long to speak with him. I listen to past voicemails of his that I have saved, and I feel as if I should have been the one to go instead. I pen my feelings in a new journal and then tore those pages out, just as I did with my old one. I read the words and feel they are all lies, all fabricated, unreal. My brother is gone. At the same age our father passed away, my heart is shattered. It hurts deeply. I feel nauseated. I never imagined we would lose a sibling this way. It feels as though a dagger has been thrust into my chest. Breathing hurts at times. I apologize if this is disjointed, but I appreciate your time in reading this. I needed to express my feelings. This is only the beginning. I do not know what will happen next. I do not know who will manage all the arrangements. I do not have any information. I am sorry. Chris, I love you, my brother. With love, your little sister. Story 2. Am I the a-hole for cutting a gaming friend off? I have been gaming with an individual I met online for 12 years. For extended periods, I have considered him to be my best friend. Recently, he has become noticeably stressed due to work, family, and life in general. He has started engaging in negative self-talk more frequently. I have made efforts to counter his negative statements about himself and conveyed my support, care, and admiration for him. However, it often seems as though my reassurances are not resonating with him. Additionally, there are others in our friend group whom I do not regard as good friends. They can be quite rude and exclusive towards others, sometimes going so far as to express their dislike for individuals present. I believe that, whether meant as a joke or not, such behavior is unacceptable to me. I have previously discussed this with my friend, as these individuals often respond with "who asked?" when someone tries to converse. I pointed out that it frequently feels like many of us are not true friends. Recently, we encountered a woman while playing a game together and started inviting her to join us. So it was my friend, a less than ideal friend, this woman, and me. For about a week, the four of us enjoyed gaming together. Then, they chose to play a different game that I was not interested in, but we still remained in a party together for chat. I began to feel excluded when they bought and started playing another game without inviting me directly. Could I have invited myself? Certainly, but I do not want to be the one who has to invite themselves. The following day, the three of them played together again, but this time they did not join the party chat with our other friends, where we typically socialize, nor did they create a public party. Instead, they formed a private group with just the three of them. The next day, when they were in the private group again, I reached out to my friend. As two men, it can sometimes be challenging to discuss feelings openly. Nonetheless, I feel I conveyed what I wanted to express clearly. I inquired why he was no longer joining our group and mentioned that I felt like I was merely present during our last gathering. He explained that the less than ideal friend did not want to hear football conversations during the Super Bowl, but that did not clarify why they continued to separate themselves. The following day, I did not hear from the three of them again. I assumed they might just be busy. I noticed the less than ideal friend and the new person gaming together and thought little of it. However, I then saw the less than ideal friend playing the game we had originally been playing, seemingly alone. That struck me as odd since he had openly stated his dislike for that game. PlayStation indicates which players are in game groups, and I saw he was joined by a player who was appearing offline, my friend. That was when I realized my friend had not been busy, but rather was appearing offline. I found this incredibly disrespectful, especially after having expressed my feelings of exclusion the day before. I was deeply hurt. From my perspective, I had been open about my feelings, and they seemed to be intentionally disregarded. Later that evening, I sent him a message and subsequently blocked him. In my view, the opportunity for discussion had passed, and I felt dismissed. I did not want to involve our mutual friends. As the leader of the group where we all gather, I decided I did not want them to feel excluded from the larger group because I understand what that isolation feels like. When I attempted to join the party chat that day, I realized that since I had blocked them, I would need to request to join rather than simply entering. I recognized that would cause inconvenience for both myself and them, so I unblocked them and chose to mute them instead, as I did not wish to engage with them. When they acknowledged my lack of desire to communicate, they left the group voluntarily, created a new one, and invited the mutual friends. Throughout the day, the mutuals became aware of the situation through them and were dragged into something they did not need to be involved with. Another not-so-great friend, who was not even part of the situation, messaged our mutual friends with outright incorrect information, claiming that the individuals I had blocked, and subsequently unblocked, were no longer able to join the group, which they had already exited on their own, and that nobody should join the groups I was in for a while because I was in timeout. This behavior is incredibly manipulative, and I have since discussed it with mutual friends and called it out as such. I made no attempt to speak poorly of them or disparage them while they were actively trying to isolate me. Fortunately for me, they failed to isolate me because some true friends listened to my side, reviewed the evidence, and recognized that things didn't add up. Since then, I have had several open conversations about my feelings with my friends and sought their opinions as well. I feel as though we have improved in the way we treat one another. It has now been approximately a week and a half, and I was having another conversation with one of my friends. He mentioned that my friend was confused about why I had decided to cut him off. He asked if I had spoken with him about it beforehand. I reminded him that I had communicated through text. I also read the conversation to friends when sharing my perspective. He then asked if I had spoken with him face-to-face instead of texting. He mentioned that messages do not necessarily convey the full depth of feelings. While I agree with him, I believe my texts were straightforward. Moreover, I rarely send messages discussing feelings of exclusion, so I thought my unusual action should have indicated my seriousness. He then stated that it was not my friend's intention to make me feel excluded. I responded that it is crucial to differentiate between intent and impact. Even if we do not mean to hurt those close to us, that does not make it acceptable. He claimed my friend was appearing offline not as a personal issue directed toward me, but simply because he did not want to feel obligated to hang out. I expressed that I felt a double standard existed since I was encouraged to speak directly to my friend, while he was excused from simply saying, "Hey, I don't want to hang out today." I feel as if I am being manipulated into justifying behavior that I believe violated my boundaries. I do not think that their confusion or misunderstanding should excuse their actions, as I feel they did not attempt to understand my perspective. I do not believe I should have to hold anyone's hand and teach them how to be a good friend to me. I believe in treating others as we would like to be treated, and that is why I am willing to stand firm on this issue. I know they would not be acceptable of being treated the way I was. To clarify, I do not consider myself a clingy or insecure friend. There have been very long periods when we do not communicate outside of brief check-ins to see how life is going, sometimes lasting from months to over a year. The reason I am particularly bothered this time is due to the feeling of active exclusion and having my emotions dismissed. As mentioned earlier, I have unblocked them. They have the ability to message me via PlayStation, Discord, text, etc., because the mutuals wanted to see this situation resolved, and I do not want everyone to be involved any further. However, there have been no efforts to reach out from their side, and after their obvious manipulation attempts, my resolve to keep my distance has only strengthened. We are all grown men nearing 30, and this situation has been draining and exhausting. Am I the one in the wrong here? Story 3. I hate my dog. I truly do. I harbor intense disdain for her. At this moment, I understand you may be concerned about her well-being, so to alleviate those worries, no, I do not physically harm or mistreat her. I simply cannot feel anything but disdain when I see her. I must distance myself from her because that is the only way I find any semblance of peace. Let me clarify. Assuming you are still interested in hearing me out and haven't already dismissed me as a terrible person. When I initially acquired her, she was a 7-week-old adorable ball of fur, one that I had saved a substantial amount of money for and purchased from a breeder who is also a close friend for $3,500. She was intended to be a therapeutic companion, a distraction from the obsessive-compulsive disorder I have struggled with since childhood and the complex post-traumatic stress disorder I was recently diagnosed with. This arrangement worked, at least for a time. Some of my most joyful memories are from when she was between 2 months and 16 months old, a period when it felt like the world revolved around just her and me, with everyone else pushed aside. Shortly after that period, I had to leave her behind as I completed my studies, but things remained harmonious between us when I returned home. However, in recent months, a shift has occurred. While I was away at school, my parents, particularly my father, spoiled her excessively. All she needs to do is glance at him, and he is completely smitten, often showering her with any treats she desires. This happens multiple times a day, and she is fully aware of her effect on him. He didn't even want the dog, for heaven's sake. I have made every effort to put her on a diet because she became morbidly obese due to all the treats. I have repeatedly asked my father to stop giving her snacks, but my words seem to fall on deaf ears. There is nothing I can do. At one point, when her treats ran out, I informed everyone that there would be no more. My father didn't comply and went out to buy more, prompting me to confiscate them and hide them so he couldn't locate them. He searched my room in a frenzy until he found them. I have attempted to buy her healthier options like sweet potato bites and even carrots, which she enjoys and are nutritious, but my father insists on bringing home the unhealthy treats she prefers. No matter what I say or do, my obstinate father remains unconcerned. He is aware that my bond with my dog is deteriorating, yet he still disregards it. He never pauses to reflect and allow me to be the positive influence, even though I have requested that he do so. This brings us to the crux of the issue. She no longer loves me. In her perception, I am the strict one, the enforcer. There is my father, who brings her on car rides to nature trails and gives her approximately 30 treats a day, while there is me, who restricts her consumption, is unable to take her on various adventures since I am not permitted to drive, and who is the only one to place her in a brief 5-minute timeout when her barking becomes excessive. It's reached a point where she actively avoids me. When I enter the living room, she hides beneath the table. I wish I understood why. I'm not doing anything that should frighten her or make her feel unsafe. I am merely acting in her best interest. Yet, she does not perceive it that way. All she sees is that I am this mean figure. She genuinely believes that my dad is her owner, not me, the one who fought tirelessly to acquire her, who invested several $1,000s into her, who pays for all her food and veterinary visits. All I can think about is that she shows no affection towards me. If I sit down to pet her, she simply gets up and walks away. She has even started waking up earlier, often around 5 or 6 in the morning. I must rise with her, and since I am a light sleeper, I become fatigued. Then, after I feed her and take her outside, she goes right back to sleep while I remain awake, unable to return to slumber. That's not how my body operates. She is only getting up because her crate is located in my room, and she no longer wishes to sleep there. I am exhausted. I resent her for her disdain towards me, and I loathe myself for feeling this way about her. I haven't spoken to her or engaged in any activities with her in the past week because I can barely stand to look at her anymore. I was told that all the struggles during her puppy stage would pay off. Well, they haven't. Not in the slightest. She does not love me. The most heartbreaking part is that she deserves better. She is not a bad dog. She does not destroy furniture. She does not have accidents inside. She doesn't bolt down the street when given the chance. She doesn't rummage through the garbage or drink from the toilet. She does not eat the cat's food or dig through their litter box, and she is always friendly towards people. She does not deserve any of this, nor does she deserve me. I am weary. My relationship with her is significantly impacting my life. I do not know what to do. I cannot abandon her. However, if things continue this way, the next several years of her life will be nothing but misery for me. It used to be that the thought of her passing away would engulf me with existential dread, and I would almost weep at the mere thought of that inevitable moment. Now, I feel absolutely nothing, neither relief, happiness, nor excitement, just emptiness. The internet suggests I need to spend more quality time with her to win her affection. Well, I attempted that, and it yielded no results. How can I spend more time with her if she prefers to avoid my company? My dad takes her for walks, and she practically leaps with joy. When I take her, she trudges to the door as though I have asked her to clean her room. Any other guest entering our home sparks wagging tails and joyful barks from her. However, when I enter, I am fortunate if she even stands up. If she does rise and approach me, I can see the clear disappointment etched on her face. Her tail, normally held high and alert with happiness, droops low and hangs limply when she sees me. I have attempted to engage in play with her, but she exhibits no interest whatsoever. I ask if she wants to play tug, and she barely acknowledges me, despite the fact that she understands the command and used to relish the game. I try playing fetch with her outside, but she no longer chases after the ball. I yearn to love her so intensely. I genuinely do. But I simply cannot anymore, and the pain is immense. To make matters worse, I am concerned about the backlash I may face for expressing these feelings, as many people don't comprehend my situation. This is often because their dogs genuinely love them, while mine does not. Just hearing the beginning of my story, many will likely perceive me as a monster, assuming I must be starving her, or abusing her, or poisoning her. The reality is I have never engaged in any of that. I may be a monster, but not for these reasons. In this regard, I am simply an individual who has invested an enormous amount of time and energy into a futile endeavor, into nothingness. A typical narrative in my life, I suppose. It isn't my first experience, and it likely won't be the last. I am looking forward to moving out on my own again soon, and my initial plan was to bring her along. Now, I'm uncertain. I feel slightly guilty about leaving her with my parents, who didn't initially want a dog, but it's evident she would be happier that way. I doubt she would even miss me. Indeed, I doubt she would even notice my absence. Even if she did, I am confident she would be pleased about it. It is painful for me to share this, but it was equally tormenting to keep it bottled up inside. Story 4. My BF, M18, told me F18 that he stole $200 from someone. How do I deal with him? I genuinely do not know how to feel about this at the moment. He appears unable to comprehend why his actions are entirely unacceptable. He seems to think I am in the wrong for feeling angry. We were simply spending the weekend together, and everything seemed fine, when suddenly he revealed that 3 to 4 months ago, he took approximately $200, from his brother's ex-girlfriend and used it for in-game currency, expecting me to find it amusing. You should understand that I am not the type of person who gets upset over trivial matters. We generally have the most fun when engaging in a bit of harmless mischief, but I am always aware not to cross boundaries that involve other individuals or cause harm. However, I have always sensed that he struggles with establishing these boundaries. He does not realize when he has gone too far unless someone tells him explicitly. He does not intend to hurt anyone, yet when he does, he struggles to grasp that his actions were wrong, even if he is willing to admit it. Consequently, he repeats these behaviors time and time again. Returning to our discussion, he made an unsolicited comment, stating, "I'm not sure if I'm supposed to say this, but a couple of months ago, I stole $200 from insert his brother's ex-girlfriend's name and spent it on in-game currency." It was entirely unexpected. In that brief moment, I could hardly process what he had just said, so I inquired whether he was serious and what he meant by it. He then explained that he somehow obtained her banking information and proceeded to take the money. His rationale: he didn't care, his words. He also mentioned that he had only confided in his mother and me. Apparently, his mother was not upset, but one cannot always trust his perception, and he did not expect me to care either or to be angry. When I asked how he could believe such a thing was acceptable, he responded, "Because you don't like her." What a rationale! His family had some issues with her, but it was predominantly a conflict between her and his brother. While I did not appreciate some of her actions, I did not hold a strong opinion about her. Even if I dislike a person, how could a rational individual dare to think that stealing $200 from someone is acceptable? Furthermore, he did not genuinely dislike her. He merely commented that she was irritating when present, yet he never harbored intense negative feelings towards her. He was utterly astonished and taken aback that I did not applaud him for sharing this with me, and he contested the notion that it was wrong multiple times with absurd arguments such as "you don't like her," "I didn't care," or "I didn't think it was that serious." Eventually, he conceded that, yes, one should not steal $200 from someone, and acknowledged that it is not acceptable simply because he faced no consequences. The unfortunate reality is that I observe this behavior as a recurring aspect of his personality. He exhibits an astonishing level of immaturity. To illustrate, it is reminiscent of a small child who unintentionally breaks something while playing too roughly, and when confronted, shifts the blame to someone or something else. He lacks a discernible understanding of right and wrong. He acts impulsively, and when faced with responsibility, he becomes silent, withdraws, and can even show signs of defiance. He will eventually acknowledge that his actions were incorrect, yet he never truly recognizes that he was at fault. Thus, he continues this pattern indefinitely, and each time someone addresses it, it is as if he is hearing for the first time that he should not act or treat others in this manner. Regarding his background, he grew up in a dysfunctional family environment where he had virtually no boundaries throughout his childhood, and his mother apparently failed to establish any rules. They did not even seem to concern themselves with whether he attended school. Consequently, he was placed for adoption and spent much of his life with a foster family. However, they represented an extreme in their own right, introducing an excessive number of rules and chastising him harshly and without affection for the smallest infractions. I fear that he never learned where the middle ground lies. Now, he has returned to live with his biological family, and things are deteriorating. He has accumulated approximately 80 absences from school, and I am worried that he is slipping into gambling and gaming addiction lately, an issue his mother has also faced for many years, and he struggles to motivate himself. He also cannot take responsibility for his actions. He constructs a fictional world in which he is never at fault and remains that little boy who requires constant forgiveness and care. Simultaneously, at times, he behaves like the adult everyone should avoid correcting or explaining anything to. I am uncertain about how to approach this situation in the long run. On one hand, I recognize the profound impact that such a childhood can have on an individual, and this will likely always be a part of him, even if he claims otherwise when questioned. If I care for him and wish to remain in this relationship, I will need to learn how to navigate these challenges. On the other hand, he is 18, a legal adult in our country. He has spent numerous years in a more structured environment, allowing him to observe the differences, and he has had his own experiences to understand what actions are acceptable and what are not. He never learns from his mistakes and requires constant direction to admit his wrongs. He also struggles significantly to develop his own thoughts and opinions, although there has been some improvement in this regard, making it difficult to engage in stimulating conversations. He tends to either completely agree with everything you say or entirely dismiss your views. He is neither disabled nor anything like that. However, his younger brother does have fetal alcohol syndrome. I can see that he possesses a fundamentally complicated personality. He is not inherently unkind and seldom intends to harm others, yet he engages in numerous rude and inappropriate behaviors. It seems that the more you attempt to explain to him that certain actions are unacceptable, the more he entrenches himself in those behaviors. He often resorts to lying, concealing his actions for fear of facing my anger. However, at home, no one informs him when his behavior is inappropriate. Everything is just accepted and often ridiculed. Then, when challenges arise, everyone is left bewildered. His brother serves as the worst influence on him, demonstrating even more negative behaviors than I have described about my boyfriend, including aggression and violence. They have been at odds for several months because my boyfriend witnessed his brother engaging in unacceptable behavior, which pulled him into problematic situations. However, they are beginning to reconnect, and things are already deteriorating again. How does one manage a person like this? Am I meant to cope with such a person? Our bond is strong, but his behavior disturbs me. I feel powerless because I cannot seem to convince him to see reason. It feels as though I am simultaneously thinking and feeling for two individuals. I apologize for the length of this message. Summary: my boyfriend continually engages in rude and harmful behavior. He is immature yet entirely oblivious to the consequences of his actions. I require guidance on how to navigate this relationship. Story 5. Marriage in limbo after a few weeks. Was it a lie all along? Dear Offmachist members, this is a throwaway account. I turn to this community because I have numerous challenges in my life, and I am beginning to feel overwhelmed by them. This will not be a brief post, and I sincerely appreciate anyone who takes the time to read it and share their thoughts, whether they are supportive or critical. In recent months, it has been revealed that my long-term partner is expecting a baby. This was a planned pregnancy, not an accident, and we subsequently got married. We are having a baby boy. Despite having enjoyed a very successful and rewarding career, both professionally and financially, I experienced an unexpected job loss due to circumstances beyond my control, alongside some colleagues. While that situation has stabilized after considerable stress, and I now have a source of income, we always intended to start a family after marriage, which we did promptly. Concurrently, my relationship with my parents faced a significant setback, as they have proven to be completely incapable of providing the meaningful emotional support or presence we need during these pivotal life changes. As I approached my wedding, I created a significant scandal during my bachelor party that nearly derailed everything. In short, I instigated a conflict with my friends after consuming a considerable amount of alcohol. My trigger for this fight was feeling abandoned in the midst of my own celebration after several enjoyable hours. For about 20 to 25 minutes, I genuinely lost track of where the rest of the group was. I found myself on the streets, and, for reasons that now seem foolish, I did not make a concerted effort to reconnect with them. Instead, I internalized the thought that nobody was searching for me at my own event, leading me to feel isolated and alone. It is challenging to reconstruct or even comprehend, in hindsight, the absurd yet powerful thoughts that emerged during that time, but they initially manifested as deep sadness before evolving into anger. When my friends eventually caught up with me, the situation escalated into a physical altercation and harsh words were exchanged, in which I was overpowered. The following day, filled with humiliation and regret, I apologized to each person present and committed to addressing the underlying issues that led to my unacceptable outbursts. Since then, I have sought treatment and have been advised, I believe rightly, that the root of my problems lies in substance abuse, combined with childhood trauma from witnessing and experiencing domestic violence as a young boy. Although I am not a daily drinker, it has been pointed out that I possess a volatile emotional state, and when compounded by alcohol, this becomes a dangerous mix. Thus, I am now embarking on a path toward sobriety, as I have been diagnosed as an addict. In truth, I have been aware for some time that my relationship with alcohol is unhealthy. It has never been about frequent drinking. Instead, it occurred once or twice a month when I would drink heavily over the course of a night, struggling immensely, if not impossibly, to stop. I am currently attending Alcoholics Anonymous meetings, and I am taking this matter seriously. I do not wish to experience a repeat of such actions ever again. Additionally, my wife has long expressed concerns about the verbally abusive person I become when I drink. I regret that these warnings did not prompt an immediate change in me. In light of what transpired, she was, I believe, on the brink of canceling the wedding, and I would have understood had she chosen to do so. However, she stood by me, and we enjoyed a beautiful wedding. I felt this would mark the beginning of a new chapter, feeling immense gratitude toward her and being committed to making lasting changes. However, shortly after our wedding, I began to feel immense negativity from my wife, bordering on disgust at times. It is possible that previously suppressed anxieties or feelings about me began to surface following our wedding, with my recent actions serving as the final straw. Despite having exchanged vows and experiencing a wonderful wedding day filled with smiles, hugs, kisses, and the warmth that I now recognize as exceptional, these issues still linger between us. I reflect on numerous moments over the past couple of years when she displayed signs of resentment. I was always aware and frequently asked her about these feelings, urging her to be honest with herself and with me. In hindsight, I can clearly see instances where I raised my voice in situations where I should not have, and frankly, I should never have done so or was quite rude. I acknowledge my misdeeds and the harm I have caused. I have apologized countless times, but perhaps no amount of apologies can ever be sufficient. Moreover, an apology does not equate to a solution. I have shared my experiences with a psychologist and 2 friends. They have warned me that while my diagnosis and personal reflections indicate insightful self-criticism, I must not forget that not all responsibility rests on my shoulders. They pointed out that my violent outburst was not entirely without cause, noting that others behaved irresponsibly and rudely leading up to the confrontation. They also mentioned that they had never perceived me as aggressive. Rather, they regarded me as a people-pleaser with a high emotional intelligence who perhaps endures too much. Moreover, they reminded me that my wife has her own share of mistakes that I was generous enough to forgive in the past. I do not wish to dwell on these matters, but it is worth mentioning that there have been hidden meetings with other men and exes behind my back on several occasions over the years. Additionally, there were episodes where she left me alone in the hospital when I was ill and required support, while she attended important gatherings with her friends. I do not want to create an extensive list, but looking back, I see instances where I could have easily left, yet she pleaded with me to stay. Now, when I am simply trying to treat a wart on my hand, she reacts with disgust and even forcibly pulls my hand away to avoid seeing it. Overall, I find myself at a point, and this is a recent realization from my AA meetings, where I need to distinguish between making necessary changes for myself, for my wife, and most importantly, for our child, and allowing myself to tolerate ongoing resentment and, frankly, passive-aggressive treatment. I have fulfilled her dreams, we have traveled the world together, I have switched careers multiple times to be nearer to her, I make her coffee each morning, and I massage her feet every night. I support her financially in her family's care, I paid for our wedding, I do the grocery shopping, I assist with her job applications, and I communicate my love through quality time and acts of service, demonstrating my dedication and affection for her. I take responsibility for my faults, I aspire to change and rid myself of negativity. I desire goodness in my life. I invest in equipment for her hobbies and support her in all her endeavors. I will work tirelessly to ensure our child has the best life possible. Nothing matters more than that. I am aware of my addiction, I undergo treatment, but I do not deserve to be despised. I am not a bad person. I, too, am in need of an apology for the wounds inflicted on me, which have never been acknowledged. The outburst was a sin, but its roots lie in my own pain. I require assistance. Story 6. Tifu. Do I call myself a virgin, not a virgin, or create a whole new category? Everyone. I need the internet to come together and help me determine what to call myself, because the universe has just pulled off the most cruel, once-in-a-lifetime cosmic prank on me. There I was, actively avoiding the self-absorbed individuals, the ones who regard their masculinity as prized possessions, bragging about them but never providing any real value, the ones who disappear after intimacy and make you feel like a mere character in their life story. I thought, no, I'm going to choose someone who isn't a clear warning sign. I believed I had made a smart choice. I thought I had found a decent guy. But no, the universe stared me straight in the face and said, "Oh, you don't want to be taken advantage of. Challenge accepted. Here's a nervous, self-defeating individual who will personally give you a VIP ticket to disappointment. You don't want to be used. How about you get absolutely nothing instead? Enjoy your so-called feminist icon. And let me tell you, it was quite the experience. This man was so committed to gender equality, so progressive, that he handed me my own set of unfulfilled expectations. Forget all those tales about men being misled. This man did it to himself. He left himself in disappointment while dragging me along as collateral damage. The frustration was 100% universally shared. I didn't receive a man who exploited me. I got a man who couldn't even achieve anything for himself. Ladies and gentlemen, I have experienced extreme disappointment without even having the male experience. This man was so dedicated to gender equality that he didn't even allow me the freedom to complain about men. Nope. Instead, he said, "Here, take these expectations. You can share my disappointment as well." Equality, right? And let me clarify, I provided this man with the simplest possible setup. I gave him step-by-step guidance, including all necessary support. Yet he just could not finish the task. All the build-up, all the effort, all the encouragement, both literally and metaphorically, and the ultimate outcome, nothing. He offered himself like it was a delivery from an online retailer and then clocked out prematurely. And in those fleeting moments that we did have together, I don't think even a fraction of what was promised was delivered. The effort-to-outcome ratio was so tragically low that I'm uncertain how to categorize this experience. I'm perplexed. Was he playing me? What was even the goal? My guy didn't even achieve satisfaction for himself. And honestly, he was extremely nervous. The instant he laid eyes on me, he started to malfunction like an outdated computer trying to run too many applications at once. He spent days expressing his concerns about how everyone cancels plans and how women merely talk without taking action, insisting that I needed to be absolutely sure before we met. So I thought, wow, this guy must be sincere. I could see the signs of his insecurity. But come on, I was thinking, awa, he's a bit unsure adorable. He wasn't just another self-absorbed individual. However, the minute we arrived, his mind collapsed harder than the financial markets in 2008. If you're not interested, just say it. If you're not attracted, simply say it. If you want to proceed slowly, just communicate that. You expect me to read your mind? I barely even initiated contact before he began spiraling into a complete identity crisis. This guy acted as if I had suddenly transformed into a mythical creature, turning him to stone. And let's discuss this insecurity about his physique. Really? Sir, this is an encounter, not a negotiation for release. What did he expect? That I'd overlook his existing issues, don a blindfold, and tenderly stroke his ego while he remained fully dressed. He clearly thought he was some kind of enigma. Like, sir, do you genuinely think I would suddenly lose interest in you mid-encounter? At this point, I should feel insulted regarding my choices. Does he believe I wander around selecting random people off the street and feel compassionate enough to grace them with my presence? Absolutely not. I have taste. I have standards. I don't just hand out opportunities like they're free samples. I chose him. At this juncture, I didn't just lose my virginity, I misplaced it. It was right there. I had it in my possession, and then he fumbled so profoundly that it seemed to vanish. If intimacy had a tutorial, he failed the very first task. If there were an Olympic event for not following through, he would have won the gold medal. Do I check the virgin box, the not virgin box, or should I create an entirely new category? Perhaps almost but not quite initiated into the world of intimacy, thanks to a self-sabotaging, insecure individual. And the most unfortunate part, the absolute worst part, he didn't even have to do much. He could have simply stopped overthinking, ceased self-sabotaging, stopped making me do mental exercises to reassure him, and just let it happen. But no, instead, he emotionally derailed himself at record speed. So yes, internet, assist me. Should I label myself a virgin, a half-virgin, a technical virgin, or should I dismiss the entire concept of labels altogether, given that in the modern era, not even intimacy is a guarantee anymore? In summary, I thought I had avoided the self-absorbed individuals and found a decent guy, but the universe delivered a self-sabotaging, insecure person who was so committed to progress that he handed me an experience without fulfillment without me even having the male experience. He boasted about his intentions, but folded under pressure immediately. He spiraled into an existential crisis before I even made contact, kept his shirt on as though we were at a conservative gathering, and then proceeded to mishandle my initiation into intimacy. If intimacy were a video game, he would have failed the introductory level. If self-sabotage were an Olympic sport, he'd be on the podium right now. So, Internet, what should I call myself? Virgin? Not a virgin. Or should I invent a new category? Attempted but denied by a nervous individual.